Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Pedalshift Project. The Pedalshift Project is a series of conversations, thoughts, and experiments on bicycle travel adventures. From tips and tricks to ideas on how to ride your ride, let's shrink the world by bike. Show notes and more are available at pedalshift.net/397, and you can email the show at pedalshift@pedalshift.net or text me at 202-930-1109, and check out Pedalshift on all the socials as well. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 397th edition of the Pedalshift Project. My name's Tim Mooney. Thanks so much for joining. On this edition, in Florida Coast Part 4, this is the final day of riding, and it was meant to be a focus on fun, and yet another ride onto Disney property, as tradition seems to have taken hold. An early decision to fast forward past some lesser portions of the route pays off dividends, but would extra traffic at the end make for a too challenging finish line? Folks, once again, another reminder that Pedalshift 400 Live will be Friday, April 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Check out Pedalshift on YouTube or pedalshift.net/live for more. Ask Me Anything's for sure. The rest are a big old surprise. Hope to see you all there.
Good morning from a dark trail. It is 6:15 a.m. and I am back on course for day 4, part 4 to you, of the Florida Coast Adventure. This is from close to Sanford, Florida, where I'm at right now. But I am about to cross the St. Johns River again, leaving Volusia County. Thank you, Volusia County, for your hospitality. Entering Seminole County, one of the last couple of counties I'll be in. The last one, I believe, will be Orange County, if I'm not mistaken, as Disney World property, I think, is on both counties. And I believe where I'll be going today will be Orange County. In any event, here we are. Welcome to Seminole County. This is my one climb of the day. Let's say an overpass over this bridge. Why, pray tell, am I riding in the dark? Number one, it's lit here on the trail, at least on this bridge. So I don't face the same safety concerns as I would with any road routes, although I do believe I may be going on some road portions of the road today, but probably not before we hit nautical twilight, which actually shouldn't be too long from now. The other thing is, I just woke up early. I was thinking last night as I was drifting to sleep how great I have slept, largely. The other night near Daytona was very loud and it took me a while to get to sleep. But for the most part, I've slept very comfortably. No aches and pains the next morning. No, nothing like that. And I've had a good continuous sleep, which has been unusual. I'm really genuinely surprised at that. Sometimes it takes me a couple of nights before I can get a full good night's sleep. And that has not been the case. It's been great. Big ups to that. Here we are, just about mid-span here. I would take a picture, but there's no way it would look all great in the picture. Very tranquil looking situation. The bridge noise, you just heard a vehicle going the opposite direction here with a boat. The bridge noise is pretty much a constant all night long when you're at the campsite. And I think that's one of the negatives to this trip and I'd like to continue to remind myself how much road noise there is at all of these campgrounds. You do not get that sort of wildernessy vibe. This is not that kind of a trip. This is you're biking in the middle of winter kind of trip and you take what you can get. It's a very populated area. I'm sure there are tons of different rides here in Florida that you could do. It would be better. This is an off-ramp to I-4, which is another thing that's making a lot of noise. that you definitely hear all night. I'll be crossing under that in a moment here. Leaving this early is another advantage. Is just it's much cooler right now. I don't have to worry about sun exposure. If you can get up early, you can get up early. Figure I can bang out some miles this way. I still haven't decided about the fast forward or not. I think that the answer is that I'm just going to keep riding, and I'm going to keep taking a look at two things. How do I feel? And what time is it? And just basically do that as my guide here. Going under I-4 right now. I-4 is the major east-west interstate here in Central Florida. If you are not familiar, or you have not heard prior Florida rides, because I-4 is a constant companion on the east-west, especially when I'm starting or ending in Tampa. It is a major thoroughfare. So anyways, how I'm feeling and what time is it? Those are the kinds of things. If I am not feeling the mileage, I will figure out a good spot and I will go from there. Getting my daily, hey, you want to track your ride on my watch? And I'm like, no thank you. I am well aware of my workout. I do not need to drain my battery for statistics. Statistics. I get that from Ride with GPS, of course, which is a very handy app. I encourage folks to utilize a nice independent app like that. I know a lot of folks like Strava. I really like to Ride with GPS. I have nothing against Strava. I do have a Strava account, but Ride with GPS has been a good app for me. This is just great, just crossing all these I-4 on and off ramps without any worries at all. That just feels good. And we are past it. But I will be hitting it again, I'm sure. I don't remember specifically. You might hear that. Going past, I'll call it a mangrove swamp, but I'm just not sure what these trees are. But yeah, the transition from night to day is happening with the birds, so might get to see some things I don't normally get to see. I have my headlamp on and I have my tail light on just as a matter of safety here, but I have the trail all to myself, as I would expect. One thing I'd mention is yesterday, which was a Saturday, kind of prime time in the afternoon, the route has been largely bicycle free. A couple of bikes here and there on the A1A section, locals. No other bicycle campers other than the guy with the e-bike. He seemed to be a solitary dude, so I did not interact with him. He also had a dog with him of decent size. His gear and setup did not give me the impression that it was he was a traveling guy or a guy who was between homes or anything like that, which I've talked to plenty of folks like that throughout my visits. And interestingly, also he was in a paid spot. I bet that he's on a longer kind of adventure. Interesting with the e-bike, of course, I presume he had a trailer or something. I didn't see it, but his dog was big enough that unless the dog was running with him, which I doubt, that dog's on a trailer, so a little bit jealous of that whole setup, being able to go with the dog. That's fun. I have only, of course, had one dog in my lifetime that would ever put up with such things, and she is no longer with us. R.I.P. baby. Bell Star forever. All right, let's see. Now we are in a much quieter section of the trail. The road is to my right. The trail is at least 20 feet wide. It is street lamp lit. And this already feels like a great idea, just in terms of moving and getting some miles in. I wasn't sure what to expect in terms of pre-dawn lighting, but it is very clearly well lit. I'm almost thinking about taking off my headlamp, but I just don't know how much further it's going to be like this. The uniform that I have worn for literally every day, I keep putting on. I've changed the shirt. There was a point when my shirt is too nasty at this point, so I'm on my second t-shirt. But I do a t-shirt with a button down and long, they're marketed as golf pants. They're just very lightweight pants. And my trail shoes. This morning I am going with less just because I don't feel the need to cover up when the sun is not up. So I'm just in the t-shirt and the pants at this point. It's pretty muggy, but not as muggy as I think it was on the coast, which is great. Forecast for today is clouds to start, which makes me very happy. So I think I'm gonna go with this for a while. I worry when I have to cover up that it will trap more heat in. Don't really want to get exposed to the sun. I suppose I could just use sunscreen on the exposed parts like I have the whole trip, but that'll be something I will decide later. So we're rolling, we're doing good. I see my first pedestrian, so this might be a good time to close out on the A block segment of the pod. Glad to have you with me. Just before 7 o'clock, along St. John's Boulevard Avenue Road, passing by a lot of big box stores and other similar types of things. Remember how I said I was going by the St. John's River? That was a mistake. I wasn't paying enough attention to the map, and it turns out I went a couple of miles out of my way, which is a bummer because that obviously adds miles. But c'est la vie. That's what happens when you are chatting and not paying attention. Right around the point when I said, hey, I'm through I-4, that was when I should have been turning. Speaking of I-4, I will be taking an I-4 overpass in a moment here on the Cross Seminole Trail, which is another of the regional trails that makes up the Florida coast to coast. This one is not in as good shape. It is very rooty. A lot of root protrusion, so my headlamp is coming in handy here. Passing by a Dunkin' Donuts, which does not appeal to me at the moment, but I may stop for a breakfast sandy in a bit. I will never, I promise you, ever say sandy again when referring to a sandwich. Or sando, or God help me, Sammy. I will never say those words again. You'll never hear them. All right, let's see. Beautiful morning. You can tell there's a nice thick cloud layer that's going to keep that sun off of me. But I can already tell, I think that the mileage of the last few days, it's starting to add up a little bit. We'll see how this all goes. According to Rywood GPS, I have precisely 50 miles to go. I've gone more than 4.5 with my little extracurricular adventure, which doesn't help in the long run, but if I'm going to do a fast forward anyways, it will not matter at all. All right, paying attention to the map now so that I don't make the mistake of missing it, and here I am. I'm making a left. I'm making a left. I paid attention at precisely the right time. How about that? Ordinarily on a street like this, I would have to wait, but I do not, and I am back on trail. They do a nice job of marking the trail. It would otherwise look like a glorified sidewalk on a road like this, but it is good. And it is interesting because there's tons of bus stops and transit opportunities here too. There's another potential for a fast forward, maybe in a different time. I probably could do this rig that as I have it in a traditional city bus, particularly at this hour, but Central Florida transit is not robust, and I would have to question when the next bus would even be, and also where it would go from here. I'm very unfamiliar with this area. I don't know if the Lynx comes up here. The Lynx is the one that serves the Orlando area and Kissimmee, and there is a way you can get to the park that way, but in a place that would be helpful for me with my needs today. So biking it is, and likely a fast forward would involve another Uber or Lyft, which should be a lot cheaper than the last one that I took, which was for many more miles than I think I will end up taking, should I end up choosing that option. Going by a trampoline park. You know you are in Central Florida when you see trampoline parks and other tourist adjacent kinds of things. It's enormous. Took over what probably was a sporting goods store or something else that might have gone under. Maybe I guess Best Buys are still around, but whatever. There were other ones that were like Best Buys. Best Buys, for those of you internationally, it's an electronics and TV shop for the most part. It's one of the few that are left. All right, to mile marker 25.25 on the Seminole Trail. We'll check in a bit. From Axum Coffee in Winter Garden, Florida. Winter Garden, that's quite a bit of ways from where I last checked in, huh? Yes, I decided to take my fast forward. And it was probably a good call because it may be raining in a little bit here, and which is fine. I've got the gear for it, but I'm going to check the forecast and see if there's any chance to know whether it's coming imminently, in which case I would continue my break here or not. My decision-making process, why did I do this? Because I could. My big thing was trying to decide if I was going to do a fast forward. I ideally wanted it to be in that spot, an area that I've already biked, an area that was fine. The trail is fine. I enjoyed it quite a bit last year, but I've already ridden it. And the thing that's interesting about starting here in Winter Garden, this is where last year's ride effectively began, as I recall. I think I got a ride from the airport to here. I'll have to double check my memory on that. In fact, to this very coffee shop, believe it or not. And I started and went towards the coast from here, and that was how I did my thing. And I did a loop, as you recall, and came back and ended up at Disney World. This trip, I have a newly scouted route. And my concern was this, that all of that work would be for naught. And I didn't want my work to be for naught. What I decided was the possibility that I would want to fast forward, may as well do it in the spot that I've already ridden and then ride the new stuff, just because I'm intrigued with it. And also, as the day was progressing, I'm noticing tons and tons of folks will end up using the trail, and far fewer people will be on my little route as I work my way into the area that leads to Disney World. Will that be a smart idea or a bad idea? We'll see. But I was feeling really good and really strong. There's no reason to think that I couldn't have done all of the miles. I think that ultimately, that in the last part, yesterday for me, last week for you, I talked about wanting to do similar type of mileage today as I did yesterday. I just felt so good doing that kind of mileage and didn't really feel the need to push for that much more. At the end of the day, that's basically where I'm going to be at. I'm probably going to be a little bit short of what yesterday's mileage was when I add it all up, maybe even substantially more, but it'll be in the 30-mile range, I think, when all is said and done. It just made too much sense to come here. If I was going to be getting a fast forward, I may as well get it to a place where I'm familiar with, where the trail quite literally would be ending for me, and where the new road work and the new, I think there are some trails, there might be some trails involved here, the new route would be beginning for me, connecting this part of Central Florida to the Disney World complex. And I'll still get to do my ride into Disney World, which will be good. It also includes the area that I was a little bit less excited about, that I actually have ridden a bit before when I did this 2 years ago. The route that ended up getting me to the Polynesian Resort, but I am going to be deviating a bit from that too. Lots of different options here that I've got, and I'm excited to continue the ride from here. Interesting note that today the Pro Bowl is in Orlando, the worst of all of the major sports leagues, all-star games. Luckily, we were going past the stadium and other parts of the downtown area well before anybody was getting there. But yeah, that's something of note. My guys, I don't think are going to be going. I think they were all a little dismissive of it, which is fine. Sports ball, hashtag sports ball. Interesting, I was able to lock up my bags, my front bag and my backpack, along with my folded Brompton to a bike post here, and caught some attention of a cyclist inside, and she was asking me all about the Brompton. She has a Dahan, and was curious about the Brompton, and her Dahan, she says, is very heavy. I said, mine probably isn't that much lighter, if it is at all, but I said, look into the titanium ones. They're pretty sweet if you're looking for a lighter bike. Right. I'm feeling pretty good. I got myself a breakfast sandwich as threatened. Got myself a cortado, which I have to be honest, if there's one regret on this entire trip, it's not stopping in St. Augustine at the place that I think I mentioned that's right across from the Fountain of Youth tourist trap. They have a great cortado there, and I think I messed up not going there. I know I had more miles to go, but sometimes you've got to stop for the experiences, and so now I'm regretting it. I hate having regrets on these types of trips, but here we are. All right, I am now going to be getting my bike pulled back together. I will be leaving here, and when all is said and done, I think in terms of mileage, it's not a ton, but it's also in areas unfamiliar to me, so I think that I will find myself being happy that I will be getting in a little bit earlier, but I wonder if I'm still going to be pretty beat at the end of it. I can totally see that. It's just there's accumulation of miles that has been going on, and if I was in the bike shape that I intended to be, I'm sure I could have knocked out all of these miles. Maybe not the headwind miles in day 2, but I'm sure I could have. But now it's focus on fun, and we all know we like to focus on fun around here. So that's what I'm going to be doing, focusing on that. I think the fast forward, I'm at peace with this one as well, and I'm looking forward to the adventure of backdoor way in again to Walt Disney World. Join me, will you? Won't you? Will you? Won't you? I can't even talk. More to come. From Winter Garden Vineland Road, taking a bit of a break here, south of Winter Garden. And this is a road that's doing a lot of the heavy lifting southbound. I think it's southbound, or mostly southbound. Muggy, cloud cover still really thick, which is great. Yeah, I love me some cloudy weather. Despite that, I did put on my extra layer just to cover up a little bit more. It's not as comfortable, of course, as riding in a t-shirt, but it does at least keep the extremities a little more covered. I should probably put on some sunscreen during this break, but I'll wait until after, because that would be thrilling podcasting radio, wouldn't it? Traffic is starting to pick up a little bit, as one would expect. It is starting to get to mid-morning, maybe some church traffic or some early risers. It's been nice, I have to say, getting such an early start. I think ultimately I'll still feel this. I won't impact my energy levels or anything at the end of the day, but it certainly feels a lot better getting this far in. We are rounding the corner to probably a couple hours of riding left before we hit the finish line, so that's tantalizing. And as always, it's great. It feels like you accomplished something, but also it's a little sad because the end of the bike adventure, at least the bike phase of it. But I think I'll crash hard tonight, and then I'll have my adventures that are non-bikey tomorrow. Sorry for that. There's your soundscape of the drying process of a car wash. Yes, we are in Central Florida, so a very car-centric place. But overall, I have to say, yet again, another Florida ride, and knock on whatever steel beat. I have had 0 bad car encounters so far, and that's pretty fantastic. A lot of it is because I've largely hewn to infrastructure that's here. I could take the road, I could take the lane. I know it's in my right, and the asphalt here is beautiful, but why bother when I've got a 20-foot wide sidewalk? I would prefer to have the seamless, literally seamless asphalt, but why bother? There's this wall of traffic that's coming right now between traffic lights, and they're hurrying up to the next traffic light only to stop again. And I just don't feel like being in that. It just doesn't work for me. Now, in other contexts it may, but here, this is great. This works really great for me. And there's not many people at all using the sidewalks, pedestrians or otherwise. Seen a few folks on bikes today because it's a weekend, and given the bro nod or the gal nod, depending on who. And that's been nice. Friendly folks here, which is always good. And yeah, I've been enjoying this. The one thing I will say that's nice about this portion of the ride that I'd forgotten, there is a little more cadence to it. There's a little bit of up and down, so there's time to coast. And when you can't coast like I haven't been able to for much of the ride, boy, that feels good. That feels normal. The other parts of the ride, it's just been constant pedaling for hours and hours. Of course, day 2. I keep talking about day 2 a lot, but yeah, that was constant pedaling, and that does wear on you. I think I should be taking more breaks during those types of times, but you know me. I'm terrible at taking breaks. I'm also terrible at cleaning my chain, but this time I actually cleaned my chain once, at least once. All right, let's see. I think I'm gonna drink a little bit more water, maybe reload my water bottle. I've been drinking a lot less of my electrolytes. I haven't needed them, I don't think, and they do tend to bother me. I think it's another example of you just gotta watch how much you take in. And maybe I'm just getting too many salts, getting the wrong balance or something like that. But I'm going to take a sip of them at least now. We're barely in the 60s, I think. Actually, that's worth checking. It's always so hard to tell when it's so humid what the actual temperature is. Let's see. It's 67 degrees right now, going up to 77. Got a little bit of a tailwind, actually, at the moment. I'm just feeling that breeze, which is nice. But yeah, at times it feels cool, and sometimes it feels hot. It just depends on when you ask me. With the breeze, it feels nice. All right, let's hydrate a little bit here, and then we will start breaking through on these last couple hours. More to come. From Windermere, Florida. A little more she here. This is the wealthier suburb of Orlando that's north of, or immediately north of the Disney World property. And it is a time to change roads. This is now, I'm probably going to mispronounce it, locals, Ficquet, F-I-C-Q-U-E-T-E. Could be Ficquet or Ficquet. I choose to pronounce the W, Ficquet, which will take me straight down basically to the point where I believe it merges with Reims Road. And if Reims Road sounds familiar, that was from a couple of years ago. From there, I could go one way and go towards Polynesian and the Grand Floridian, but I am going to continue down the other direction, and I'm going to wiggle my way out to the, let me get this right, to the west of property and come down so that I can, and I'll be going through Windermere. This is my first time actually here, believe it or not. I'll be going through Windermere proper that borders the Disney property, and then I will end up back at a very familiar point on Western. I can't remember if it's Western Road, Western Avenue, Western Way. It is Western Way, at a point where you have all been with me if you have been with the show for any period of time. That is the Western access point. So that'll be good. I'll be retracing a small portion going southbound in that area, which was the portion that I went northbound 2 years ago, if everybody's following me. But yeah, so far, this is all new to me, this whole way in, and it's very easy. This is very easy riding, big, wide sidewalks. I think part of it is because Windermere High School is just north of me here. I passed by it. Go Wolverines if you are a Windermere High graduate. Very nice looking campus, very nice looking Under Armour sponsored football field. But that I suspect is a reason why we have a really nice bike route that goes by here. This continues, like I said, into the town of Windermere, and yeah, then it'll spit me out along, I cannot remember what highway, but there's an access road or service road that is perfectly fine, that's very lightly traveled, that worked just fine last time. Yeah, that's basically the remainder of the route, or at least the description of it. Things are thinning out in terms of amenities, which is fine by me because I've got everything that I need. I think I got enough calories in me from my breakfast sandwich. Reminder, I will not say Sammy, Sando, or what was the other one? Sam? I can't remember. Samo. That was the other one that I will not ever say. You will never hear those words again. Breakfast sandwich. Yeah, just going to take another moment here to get a little more liquid in me. Clouds are still out. Wind is still largely behind me. It's very light, though. Not really getting a ton of benefit out of it, but I'm fine with that. So we are continuing the road to Walt Disney World. From Reims and Ficquet, it's the same as last time. Very crowded, always stop area. And a bit of a traffic jam, and cycling around through it is tricky just because, of course, the vehicles want to get going and you want to get going, and there's just not a lot of space there. I wonder if it would be better served with a stoplight, but there's just a lot of traffic. This is for lack of a better way of putting it, the secret back way to the north part of the parks area. A lot of cast members will use it, I assume. But also folks who lived in this area to get to the parks, I assume, as well. It's a public road. Anyways, got through that. I have to white knuckle it a bit, but I'll be making a left on a Seidel, which actually I think is what I'm on. Nope. I'll be following one of the cyclists. I'll be just actually stopping at my crossing point and continuing my chat with you. So right now, as of this moment, we are back onto a route that I have done before. My review of this way in, it's really great until that point, and then I think the vast majority of you listening would be like tapping out for that experience. It's no infrastructure, sidewalk ends, literally no shoulder at all, not even the gutter kind of a situation. So it's not great, but it is also, if you look at Strava, if you look at Ride with GPS, a lot of cyclists do use it. I think people are used to seeing bikes in this area. It is not ideal. Now, the one thing I'd say is because there's so much traffic, the vehicles are going, they're not moving at all. Actually, that's pretty safe when all is said and done. But I'll be happy to get back onto Seidel here. And from this point on, I know that the traffic is pretty chill. And even if there isn't, there's a big wide sidewalk for basically between here and that service road I mentioned. And then we're at Western Way, and everything from there I've done several times. Yeah, it's all coming together. We are within spitting distance of formerly known as Reedy Creek land, which of course was if you followed the story at all, the governor of Florida got into a tiff with Disney, and basically the management company, the holding company, for lack of, I'm really yada-yadaing this, but the company that sort of controls all of the land, there was a special tax district here in Florida, that was revoked, and there's a new one that sits in its place, and it's basically all the same. After all the kind of fist-shaking and politicking, it's pretty much the same thing again, although there's nominally some different structure to who governs it. But ultimately, let's be honest, it's probably all controlled by Disney. Don't mess with the mouse. I will be hitting onto Seidel Road, familiar place, and there's some cyclists out, there's a bunch of cars out, and I'm sure there's just a lot going on here on a Sunday. So avoiding any interactions that are not fun, and we'll be crossing here in a moment. So more to come. From the bougiest 7-Eleven you will ever know. Here, and I assume this is Windermere here. It is getting towards the end here. It's not very long until I reach that service road and then turn down, and then we are right on Disney property there. So thought I would stop and get a little caffeine and sugar uptick, just because I don't feel like eating anything in particular right now, even though it's, getting to be time for something like that. So I thought a little sugar boost and a caffeine boost would hit the spot better. Still pretty gray out, still pretty cloudy. That sun really wants to burn through, even though that cloud layer is pretty thick. If I time this, I might beat the sun coming out, which would be fantastic. Now, the only downside is I don't know if my room is going to be ready. We'll have to see. But I do, of course, have access to the pool and stuff. So one of the things that I could conceivably do is just pull together a change of clothes and take advantage of the pool and all of that, and then check the bike and bags and things like that. Might be a good opportunity for me. But I am. I'll be ready for a break, and I can already tell that my I will conk out early tonight. You can just feel it. The getting up at 5 a.m. is not part of my usual TikTok, shall we say. I think I will be early to bed as well and ready for a new adventure tomorrow, but still have this one to complete. Probably looking at about 8 miles of riding to go, and it's the last 4, of course, are pretty technical, for lack of a better way of putting it, because there's some things that you have to do at particular stoplights, and there's some crossing of roads that have to be done in a very particular way, but stuff I've done before, and you have come along with me. I think I will end up doing a chunk of this with you coming along for the ride, but not until we get to the approach, I think, to Western. I may, in fact, try to do a little bit of video as well. I just don't know. I just know that it's always difficult to operate safely while shooting video, which is why you don't see a lot of video from me. Just until I get back into the body cameras and stuff like that, I think I'll leave that to the biking Bryans of the world, who do a much better job of it than me. From the Central Florida Tourism Oversight District. That is the most sinister name. Reedy Creek. That was just like, hey, you don't know who we are. But this is just, holy smokes. Yeah, there's a big sign on whatever highway this is. This is not I-4, it's something else. But it is a toll road, I think goes around this area. But yeah, that's the new name. Go back to past episodes, or past Florida tours about the story behind Reedy Creek, and this new Central Florida Tourism Oversight District is the new one. It basically does the same thing. It's a special district here in Florida that runs the fire department and the land use and the zoning and all this other stuff for this large Disney property. So technically I am now on Disney property, or ish. I'm adjacent because this is a public road right here, but there are tons of public roads in the artist formerly known as Reedy Creek. I almost feel like I got to do the Prince thing with it. It's the artist formerly known as Reedy Creek. I think I'll probably go with that. But yeah, big water filtration area as best I can tell here. Big berms with sand in it. That looks like it's doing some kind of filtration work there. Lots of really fascinating stuff to make this whole area work. It's quite literally its own city/county, even though it resides with Orange County right now. I should mention I am in Orange County now, as I mentioned before. All right, riding down here on Herzog Road, a familiar road to some of you, certainly is for me. And it's much nicer this go around with the cloud cover, which I definitely like. But yeah, we are getting close to the assault on Western Way. More to come. From Western Way and Herzog Road, a familiar spot. This is the entrance, essentially, once I get past the on and off ramps to Florida 429, which is the toll road that I was mentioning last segment. Once I get past that, then we are pretty much moments away from passing under the Disney Gate here on Western Way. Traffic is pretty moderate, and it comes in waves. So I think obviously the best thing that I can do is wait until a wave coming down here on Western goes by, and as soon as it is done, go, and that'll give me the clear shot past the on and off ramps here. That's really the only real stressful part, and the wave ends in a very obvious way. It's a whole bunch of traffic and then nothing, and then that provides a real good way in. And then there's 2 lanes, so there's ways for vehicles to go around and all of that. So yeah, this is looking pretty good. I'm seeing a Cybertruck go by. I don't know how you feel about the Cybertruck. I still think it looks weird. Just looks weird. Anyways, so that is one of the types of vehicles that I'll be sharing the road with here. I'll say, when I'm looking at this right now, this is probably more traffic than I've seen on it in any of the times. But I know what I have coming ahead here, so I don't feel too nervous about this. I do know that it's unlikely that there'll be any kind of conflict zones. The places where I worry the most is up at the merge in from the off-ramp of 429. I think that's where things are the diciest. But it just doesn't look like there's a lot of cars coming off of it. It is a toll road, and the toll roads just don't have the same traffic that an I-4 would. Frankly, I see more cars coming off of Herzog right now than anything else. But I'm going to take a decent break here, observe the traffic a little bit, and observe the flow. Yeah, now I'm seeing when a good time to go is. You can hear the lack of traffic. Nearby, of course, is the Disney College Program lodging. That's the bus you're hearing right now is the nondescript buses that they have those cast members come in on. Yeah, a little quieter at this point. So yeah, there's definitely a good time to go. This would have been an excellent time to go. Even though there's other cars coming, it's just no competition there. And then the big wall comes. So yeah, waiting until there's a little bit less traffic is the smart way to do this. So I will take a little bit more of a break, observe, and then we will play it on out for the remainder of this ride into Disney World. All right, here we go. Beating the wall, hopefully. And we are already past the on-ramp. First on-ramp. There's another vehicle coming down the off-ramp. Another one. The timing looks good for me to get past the for the next one. And it's a little closer than I would like, but we're going to go for it. And we did it. And that vehicle has passed me. Great. And everybody's merging. And there's one more off-ramp to go. And from there, I can already see the gates. There's one vehicle coming off. They have a stop sign, it appears. And there's nobody else there. So another charmed entry here on Western Way. Let's see. The Villages Charter School gave me a fair amount of room there. One more off-ramp, and then I get my shoulder. Didn't even need to pause at any of the safety spots. I am now firmly and happily here. And they do specifically say do not stop. So I will not stop, but I will. I think we'll video this. All right. Check out the front of my setup here. Oh, interesting. Deputy Sheriff for Orange County just passed me by. Seemed to be not interested in me even a little bit, which is great. Figure if he were, he would have, or she, didn't see who they were, of course. So that says something there too. All right. Disney World. And I am passing underneath it right now. So now that we've done that, taken that video, probably the one video I'll take. I'm going to secure the, oh, we were going to secure the phone, then we dropped it because I'm a moron. All right. I'd like to not stop per the instructions. Probably should have stopped just to secure the phone. Would have had the same effect. All right, 3 miles until we are at our finish line. From here, there is an enormous shoulder, and you can hear the traffic going by me. It comes in waves, as I mentioned. We're in a quiet spot now. We get to see some of the beautiful tree-lined ways here. Palm trees in the center divide until it peters out into a nice, very well-maintained grassy median. And on the right, some of the kind of swamp-resistant, water-resistant kind of trees, because a lot of this area will retain water. One of the interesting parts about this approach, and I know I've mentioned it before, is that since you're not going at or motorized vehicle speed, you do notice some additional things. You can kind of peek through at places that you're supposed to be going so fast you can't really see. Of course, a lot of what you end up seeing is some of the maintenance-y kind of stuff. I'm seeing that right now, a big covered area for larger vehicles. Could be a bus depot, could be any of a number of things. But also, more fascinatingly to me at least, some of the ways that they handle water around here. People are often amazed at how there is a lack of mosquitoes here on the Reedy Creek, artist formerly known as Reedy Creek property. And there's a whole variety of different ways that they do it, but the most important way goes back to the thing that I passed 2 segments ago. Turns out that those were going to be future retaining ponds, and I saw them being filled. Water is always moving around here, always moving. And that means that mosquitoes can't breed, basically. So this entire complex, its water systems are very managed. They're meant to look natural, including a lot of the lakes, but they are very managed, down to the smallest creek that moves water around here. Of course, they pump water too, but always with an eye towards moving water. It's also another reason why during hurricane events like we had here this summer, it's a very safe place to be. And a lot of folks within the state, especially on the coast, if they're going to be impacted by a hurricane, they will end up here. I feel like I probably tell the same stories every time as I am filling time as I bike on this last segment here, but I find it fascinating, personally, the engineering marvels that go on. One of these days I would love to talk to somebody who does this kind of engineering for Disney, just to hear some of the stories and the degree of challenges that they have on just a normal day, much less during a tropical event. That must be pretty wild to move that much water into places where they go. I just saw somebody's barf. Somebody was car sick. That's always delightful. I love it when the worst thing that I can possibly roll through is somebody's barf. Let's see. We are less than 2 miles away from the important turn that happens here. So we are on Western Way, as I've mentioned, which is a pretty straight shot. One of the few areas that has such a really great shoulder that makes things really safe. This is a wider shoulder than many of the roads that I was on yesterday. But I do have one, I'm about to go through a light right here, but it's almost always going to be green because it looks like it's a cast member or a maintenance area only here. Let me get through this light. As I just said, it rarely goes. Yeah, this is a service and authorized vehicles only. Looks like a big depot of some kind. I'd love to know, but they don't tell us. And I think I've mentioned you don't want to do things, you don't want to trespass in places or do anything within Disney property that will upset the mouse. If you do, you run the risk of being trespassed yourself, meaning you will be declared not allowed on this private property. And that is not good for someone like me who likes to come on this property. So although one could be tempted just to pop in there. Oh, I see a bunch of greenhouses in that area. That must be for agricultural, for gardening. Obviously, they have tons of plants that they have to maintain throughout all of the parks and the resorts and things like that. Yeah, that would be interesting, but not interesting enough to be trespassed. We pass it by and we peek what we can from the road. So yeah, I am flagging a little bit, so I think I'm going to slow it down. I do not need to be going at speed. I think I have learned through the years that this is not something that I need to rush, because now that county sheriffs have definitely seen me on this road, I don't think I need to worry about being told I'm not allowed here. This is a public road. I feel like I'm doing it pretty safely right here, so here we are. Ah, I can see some kind of a mountain, a foam mountain, a fountain to my right. We're starting to see some signs here for the Magic Kingdom Resort area, which we did a couple of years ago. We went to the Polynesian, a different way in, because if I went this way, you're on roads that are all highway, no shoulder, and that's just not good. Although this road certainly behaves like a highway, people are moving at speeds like a highway, I feel pretty safe where I'm at. Next up, also going to the left, way that I am not going, some other resorts. not worth mentioning. I'm peeking into the right here. I'm seeing a lot of stuff being grown, crop style. So probably for, again, trees, maybe even some fruit for a variety of uses. That's entirely possible. This all used to be either swampland or orange groves, purchased on the cheap by Walt himself, secretly through holding companies back in, I believe, the 1960s, knowing full well that if anybody caught wind that it was Walt Disney or the Walt Disney Company purchasing this land, that things would have gotten much more expensive much more quickly. So doing it on the down low was financially advantageous and allowed him to buy, through all these various holding companies, an enormous amount of land. Absolutely enormous. And most of it is not used for the parks. You've already heard me. How long have I been going? This is all backstage stuff here. Nothing particularly public here, nor would it ever be. All right, let's do a quick map check. About a mile and a half in from our turn. I'll mention the turn and then maybe we'll take a pause. The turn's at a light, so I do have a traffic control feature, and what I typically will do is I'll go to the front while it's, usually I've gotten up there when it turns red. I'll go up to the front, and the way the turn lanes are, it's a T intersection. So what I'll do is I'll go up through the middle of the traffic, and when the folks who go left move, I go straight, and there is a sidewalk on the opposite side of that road, and then I turn left, and then it's pretty simple. It's sidewalks all the way, pretty much, except for one left-hand turn that I'll have to make across traffic, but I do have opportunities for that. Going over some rain grates, which I'm sure I've mentioned. Not built for bike tires, let's just put it that way. I am reminded that since I'm staying at the Coronado, I have an entry point that is different than the front, and I don't have to go through that light. So I'm going to do the same thing that I think I did in a past year and go through an exit point and then work my way around to the front. I think, although that's probably, if I was in a motorized vehicle, that would be frowned upon. I think I would get, well, I know I didn't have a problem last time. I know I was nervous about it. I think I talked about being trespassed the last time. But I do have to make a left turn no matter what. And if there's a break in traffic here, I think it's a good time to do it. So, seeing a big wall of traffic does not give me much of a notion to try it now. But where there are big walls of traffic, there are gaps in traffic from time to time. It's also where the things quiet down a little bit from, well, yeah, it looks like my luck this time has not turned out to be as lucky. So I think I'm going to proceed to the intersection. A lot more cars today than I have had historically. Yeah, things are backed up here. Now, the nice thing about that is vehicles aren't moving fast, so less of a chance of a problem. There's also the opportunity to maybe do a U-turn here, but vehicles are just moving too fast as there's a green ahead. So we won't try that either. We will stick with the plan that I mentioned before. Just ride on up, wait for a red, and make the turn when appropriate. I think that my timing will be much better here. Now, of course, is when the traffic thins, right? Interesting. All right, I may make this green at this rate, so I do have a vehicle that is going to pass me making a right, and then I can proceed through the right lane, go straight, and make the left. Traffic behind me is stopped. There is a little bump here, and boom, I'm on a sidewalk. That's fantastic. And ahead of me, to my left, is the Coronado Resort. Now, I still have to make a left crossing all of this vehicular traffic, but I will have another traffic light, if memory serves, that can aid me in this process. Plus, because there are sidewalks, there's almost likely a crosswalk, and I can use that too. Hopefully this was interesting for you. Things have quieted down a lot, haven't they? Yeah, now when the traffic divides up from those main entry points, then of course it divides up. Yeah, I already see a crosswalk that'll take me in. Now this might not be the main entrance, but, oh, it is the main entrance. Huh, never mind. I can get a picture of the bike at the entrance and then check in with security, which is always interesting and fun. All right, so I will do that. Hi there. My guest tonight, last name is Mooney.
Right there.
Awesome, thank you so much. And here we are at the Gran Destino Tower at the Coronado Resort. And this, folks, marks the finish line of yet another Florida adventure. I'm gonna move over to some benches. You'll hear a waterfall greeting us here at the end here as our way of bidding adieu to this adventure. And we're gonna do a full stop here. We'll finish the ride. Very exciting to be here. And this time, I have ridden to my resort. Just looking at the timing from when I started from Western Way to here was 23 minutes of total riding time. And yeah, that sounds about right considering the situation. But yeah, time to sit and cool off a little bit and reflect as I think about getting into the hotel in a moment. Security person was not terribly impressed with my biking situation, but they never are. I'm sure I'm not the first cyclist that's ever come in here, but might have been the first of the day for him. I remember last time it was just, yeah, can I see your ID? But this time I was a guest, so he was able to look me up, and that was easy peasy. Yeah, this is nice. I am ready to be done, ready to get clean, ready to cool down. I think I got really lucky the last couple of days. It's still cloudy out, although the mugginess, it's just very muggy. I think that the warmth, this might have been the warmest year for me, or it could have just been that I'm so used to the darn cold. That's entirely possible, but I'll have so much in the way of takeaways for this trip. Just like even reflecting here right now, I'm so glad that I did it the way that I did it, even though the second day was really difficult. Flying into one of the airports and then getting down here and flying out of another just feels really fun and cool. And it just, when you look at a map, it's the same thing with any of the bike adventures you go on, that you can look at a map and point to one place and point to another and say, I biked that. That's really great. The fast forwards were there for sure. I think I probably fast forwarded somewhere between probably about 50 miles worth of this, which is not great, but I had good reasons for it. I think had I done the full ride today, I think I would have been really extra cooked. And ultimately at the end of the day here, I had a day not too terribly different than yesterday, and it just felt good to do that many miles. And I think that might be something that you may hear from me in a takeaway episode about how I structure these. Making miles on the Brompton just feels so different. And because I'm not in my tip-top biking shape at this time of year, or used to the warmth down here, or the potential warmth, that does really matter, and it's something to be aware of. Yeah, be thinking about it a little bit more, and you'll be hearing about it in the next episode, the takeaways episode. That's always a fun treat. And I usually, just as a bit of structure, here I am sitting here in early February, I usually get a chance to produce these episodes and relive the ride through the episodes. And that helps me think about more of those takeaways. And with a little bit of hindsight, I think that's always helpful. And that's why I always do them as standalone episodes. And I think they're helpful for maybe you to hear as well. All right, I'm going to wrap it up here and sit outside for a minute so I'm not a complete sweaty mess as I go inside to this rather nice hotel and get ready for my next adventure. And I am very excited that as we round the corner to 400 episodes, that we'll be celebrating that together with a live show, and no doubt it's going to be a fun time. I also wanted to take this opportunity, and I haven't yet, and it's many weeks since their last episode, but a big shout out to the Sprocket podcast, and a big thank you for doing the Viking funeral, the final episode where everybody got together. That was really special and really fun, and dedicate this trip not only to my dad, but also to the Sprocket, because I'm not sure if I'm here but for them in a lot of ways. And thank you guys for a lot of fun episodes and for a chance to say goodbye. I thought that was a really nice thing too. But you still got me to kick around, folks. We'll see you next time.
Statistics. Pre-dawn cycling sections: 1. Miles biked part 1, 10. Miles biked part 2, 20.1. Ubers, 1. Towns with beach in the name, 0. Flats, 0.
Thank you for joining. You can find Pedalshift at pedalshift.net for more great bicycle touring content. You can hear the Pedalshift project through Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app. Opening music courtesy of Jason Kent off his self-titled album. The track is called America. Check out his band Sunfield's latest release, Omano, wherever cool music is available.